Good people, welcome back. After our introduction to Python, I want us to move to a step further, and now I want us to cover something on types. The types we have in Python. So our lecture number 2 should be types. The other ones can just go the introduction. So basically what you're trying to talk about here is the data types used in Python. For example, we have strings, we have floats, and for us to be able to know the types being used in, let me just move this path, and then modules is introduction, then types introduction. Now, so we can get started with types. So as I do this, okay, fine. So we're going to get started with the types. So basically what we're trying to talk about here is the types. Basically, once you know the type of the specific type, the type of an object, we will be able to know the actions that can be, the operations that can be performed, and its behavior. So basically, we can be using the word, we can be using the keyword type to know. Okay, we can use the keyword type to know the kind of data type being passed or on the object or on the result we're getting. For example, you can have a variable name x having a value being assigned to a value of 2. Now, how can we know the type, the data type which x is in? So we're going to do a print, then we pass the type as we've said, type of x, right? So when we run this, we're going to get what x is in. So we can do x1.py, and then we see what is stored there. Sorry, types. So we're going to do Python. Basically, we're being told it's an integer. As we've seen, 42 is an integer. So we can, that's how we're able to know the type being used here. So the type function, this is called a type function. So the type function, this returns type or class of objects of an object. I hope you're clear about that. We had covered this initially, or we had talked about it initially. So in Python, we have a let me write it here. How we basically a name property. I hope you've seen it. Most likely you've worked more with Python. So we have a name property. So what does this help us in Python? So basically the name property if we want to retrieve their names as a string. So this name property provides the name of the class or function. I hope you're clear up to that. So basically we use the name property when we want to have the output of the class or function as a string. We'll get more as we go along. So let me show an example of a function. So we'll say we create a function called let's say example 1. So we have a function here called example 1, right? Then we don't want to do anything in the function. Then we do a print. This is how you will be able to pass the name of the class. For here we have a function, so we want to pass the name of the function as a string. So let's print my function example. Now here is where the name property comes in. So it's underscore two underscores here, and then the same. So let's see how this behaves in let's comment this out, and then we paste our test code. Example 1, sorry, we've seen the error. Example 1, sorry. So when we run our file, it gives us the name of the function as a string, as we explained here what the name property does. I hope you're clear up to there. What the type property, what the type function does, and what the name property does. I hope you're clear up to there. So we can talk about strings. Basically we've used a lot of strings so far, but let's cover more into it right now. So a string, basically sequence of characters is what you call a string. Sequence of characters. Sequence of characters representing textual data. Oh, that's clear. Strings are a sequence of characters representing textual data. We've covered that. We've used strings a lot of times in the examples we've done before we got here. So that's the meaning of a string. So a string can be created in various ways. We have ways in which a string can be created. Examples, we've covered this a lot. So user input, you can have a string from a user input. Then you can as well define from source code. So basically you can define a string ourselves, or we can have an input from a user. So there are ways in which we can create a string. So we have something called a string literal. Okay. So a string literal. So what's a string literal? So let's just have it just like that. So what's a string literal? Maybe someone can, let me try and increase the size. I was trying to increase the size. Okay. So I did. Okay, I was increasing the size of my VS Code so that it can be a bit clearer from your end. Yeah. So I bet it's now way clearer. Anyway, so what's I was talking about a string literal. A string literal is a string. So this is a string. Sorry. So this string define the source code. A string that is defined in the source code, whereby we're not getting a user input, is just defined in the source code, and basically, being in a source code or a source code of a program, it means that it is surrounded, among other qualities of a string literal. It means that it's surrounded by text. It means being in the source code. It means it's defined in the source code of a program by surrounding the text value with a string with single or double quotes. Basically, how you define such is you would use such, or you would use the double. So basically, this or the double quotes. Okay, like this one. So basically, a string literal is defined here. So we can have either here is equal to being a string. We can have it here. Basically, they all want it and the same thing, and they give the same result. So for a string, basically a string has a string type is a special construct, is a special Python construct known as sequence type. Basically a type that orders a collection of objects into sequence from first to last. I hope that's clear. A string's characters, these ones are the characters of this string. So basically like this, they are on the same thing. They are ordered from the string's first letter. This one, the string's last letter. That's how a string's characters are ordered. So character string and order from the first letter. String. How that's clear. So that in case you want to manipulate any number, you can easily tell which number the string is, or the letter is exactly if you want to manipulate. So so a character, now in a string will have characters, right? And we've said it's numbered from the first to the last. So this will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you will have 12 characters, and it's ordered from the first to the last. So a character's position in a string, like Y, C, O, D. Basically, here it will be called a character's index. I hope that's clear. The first one will be at 0, and so on to the last one. So we'll have 0, 1 to the last one. So when a programmer is writing a string, he or she can assign a string to a variable just as with other types like numbers. Okay, I hope I've explained everything more or less the same. I'm trying to write, but I think I have explained everything I've said in a clear manner when we're talking about strings. So I'd like us to do an example where we get input from a user in types. So we'll do example 2.py. Now we've said ways in which you can create strings is user input, which we're going to do it now. And then we have defined we have others which are defined with those codes. So we're going to basically we want to enter nouns. We want to enter nouns, adjectives, and the likes, and then we will be fine. So basically we call this Mad Libs. So our first input we're going to take from a user is we want to get a relative. We want to get an input from a user. We assign it to a variable name relative. Now, what are you going to ask a user? We're going to ask a user to enter a type of relative. Enter a type of relative. So we'll take that from a user, store it in our variable name relative. Yeah. Our next we're going to get an input from a user. We are going to assign it to a variable name food. So we're going to ask a user enter type of food. Yeah, so we have now two inputs from a user, and we say that we create strings from getting input from a user. So we have a relative, we have food, then we have an adjective. So we're going to take an input from a user as well. Input, basically the same format. Enter an adjective. Basically we're asking a user to. Hope that's clear. I'm basically getting input from a user here, as you see in the screen. So we want to input enter a time period. Basically we have 4 inputs from a user. Then we can have a print. Then we'll now ask we'll just do a print of the same, basically to tell the story. So basically outputs. So we're now going to try and narrate a story from what we get there, from what the user just did type. So we're going to have a print. Then if I say my enter the relative. So my, then it takes the relative from the user. It takes this input here. So my relative. So what does the relative say? It says sorry. Now since we are continuing with supposed to have it in says eating. What are we eating? We're going to be eating food. So we pass the food variable there. So basically you can that's a complete story. My relative this says eating this. Then we have another print. So we continue with what the relative says. Eating this food will make me more. Then we pass the adjective. Sorry about that. Adjective. So this is a story we're telling. That's why okay, we bring together to make it. So now for the last part we want to say so now every period. Remember these are just variable names I have picked. You can pick any variable names you would like to use. on your own. So basically, let's run an example to and then we see the result we have. Example two. So enter relative type. I'll say my aunt. Relative type is an aunt, uncle. So I'll say fish. Adjective. Is that an adjective? I'll say day. Now, from what we've just entered, now it makes a story which says, my aunt says eating fish will make me more healthy. So now I eat them every day. That's a complete statement or complete story we've created, taking inputs from a user. Yeah, we've taken inputs from user, then we've seen how we've seen the output we have. I hope we're clear up to there. When we get back, we'll come talk about string indexing. Then we keep going. Let me know if you have questions in the comment section. Thank you. Let's meet the next one. We will now come and talk about indexing a string. Yeah. See you in the next one.